you ever considered that we are living in a unique time, that something world-changing is about to happen, and that it might concern you? If so, you're in the right place. Keep listening, and you'll hear thought-provoking views behind the news that point to a new and better future for all. Many people now sense that humanity is not alone. So consider this. If the Christ or the Buddha walked among us today as modern men, would we recognize them? What would they be saying? And most importantly, would we listen? Every Sunday on this program, Share International Radio, we'll examine extraordinary events that are unfolding behind the headline news. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for. And now, welcome to this week's show.
Holland, coming to you from pretty sunny Vancouver. And I have with me today my co-host, Cielito Pascual, from our program, Share on the Air Radio. Welcome, Cielito.
Thank you, Diana. So glad to be on the show with you today. I think the last time we were together was back in April or March.
That's right. We had decided to do some fireside chats, but it's a little too hot for that. So let's call this the back porch or the front stoop or maybe the park bench.
The park bench chats.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Because it's out in the park and people are walking by and they're stopping by to join in the conversation. So we welcome all our listeners and bring you into the conversation as well.
That's right. Welcome to our park bench.
And by the way, Diana, we are celebrating our 7th month anniversary nearly to the day, and we are on our 38th show. So congratulations.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Time flies.
So
and thank you to all the wonderful guests we've had. Just want to put a little bit of context in place because people are beginning to talk about our program. The word is spreading. People are interested. We have more and more people liking us on our Facebook page. So that's really exciting. But I'm sure that there are some new folks who don't quite know the background of our show. So let me, park benchers, take just a sec to fill people in on our background, and then Cielito will introduce today's topic. So basically, our show is Share on the Air Radio, and we have 3 basic premises underlying our program. Number 1 is that we, humanity, are not alone. Never have been, never will be, but we are not alone in this universe on this park bench. We have with us now, at this pretty crucial time for Mother Earth, the aid of great teachers, perfected beings who are among us to lead and counsel both our leaders and ourselves as we transition into a brand new era, a brand new age. And at the head of these great perfected teachers is the world teacher himself, the head of all these great advisors, whose personal name is Maitreya. So that name will be familiar to some of you who are knowledgeable about Buddhist lore, because Maitreya Buddha was predicted by Gautama Buddha, the previous Buddha, to be coming as a great Buddha like himself in such times as he would be much needed. For other religious denominations, he is known, for example, as the Christ for the Christians, the Imam Mahdi for the Muslims, the Messiah for the Jews, Krishna returned for the Hindus, etc., etc. And although he represents all of these people, he is also here for people of no religion. He is a modern representative of divinity, concerned with modern problems. And so he wishes people to evolve within their own religious tradition, background, beliefs, preferences. But he is here for all men at this time, all women as well, to guide us with his great wisdom and his immense compassion for the problems that we are going through. The show today is called Maitreya's Guidance, and we will be talking about how it is relevant to our situation today. But let me turn the baton over to Cielito to tell us about that.
Thank Thanks, Diana. Well, as you know, and as our regular listeners know, every week on Share on the Air Radio, we acknowledge the inspiration for this show, and that is an extraordinary publication known as Share International Magazine. And for 32 continuous years, 10 times a year, Share International presents the news of Maitreya's process of emergence, along with global trends and world events that indicate an increase of world attention on the priorities presented by Maitreya. And those priorities begin with the complete elimination of hunger and the just distribution of the world's abundance so that every man, woman, and child is afforded the human dignity of adequate food, shelter, health care, and education. Of course, the world today, that seems like a very idealistic proposition, but we are inspired by Maitreya to fulfill that very soon or face the destruction of all life on the planet. So in Share International Magazine, which is online at share-international.org, all spelled out, these global trends and world events, they reflect things like legislative trends in different municipalities, in different cities, or it can be seen in the efforts of non-governmental organizations, or even in the increasing trend of large-scale protests taking place nearly spontaneously around the world, people demanding social justice around many different issues. So in the actual magazine itself, it's a very unique publication. There's no advertising. It is supported by subscription, reader subscriptions only. And you can turn the page and read a hard-hitting economic analysis, of what's happening today side by side. You can turn the page and you'll see photos of miracle phenomena taking place in a suburban cul-de-sac. So it's a rather unique, unusual perspective, very pertinent, very relevant perspective. So we like to bring that to this show. And so today what we're going to discuss and analyze is one of my favorite sections of every issue of Share International Magazine, and that's a section called The Master's Message. So this is really, Diana, the first show where we're taking a message and we're analyzing it and seeing where it points to certain trends going on today, what we're reading in the headline news. And it's the master. I don't think we've ever fully described what a master is on this show. We've talked about the emergence of Maitreya, the world teacher, along with his group, the Masters of Wisdom, also known as the Lords of Compassion. So one member of this group of masters has written 223 articles, and they are published in Share International every month, as I said. And this master is in what's called telepathic rapport with the chief editor of Share International. His name is Benjamin Creme. He's published a dozen and a half books on the topic of the emergence of Maitreya and the Masters. And this Master of Wisdom really just goes by the name The Master. And in time, very soon, we will know his full name, as we know Maitreya's given name, personal name. But in the meantime, we can enjoy and appreciate the insights, extraordinary insights that the Master presents in these articles. There's profound compassion expressed in his words, insight on the human condition, and all of this presented with a startling sense of poetry. So I'm really happy that we're using as an example the very recent, published recently in the June 2016 issue, and we have a link to this article online at our Facebook page, Share on the Air Radio North America. You'll see the picture of the Earth and the sun rising, And in the comment section is a link to the message we'll be discussing, which is entitled The Guidance of Maitreya. Now, what's interesting, Diana, and it looks like we're going to be moving into a break soon, so I'll wrap this up quickly, and we'll talk about the article. This article was published in September 2005, and the words are so appropriate to what's happening today, which shows just how prescient the Master was a decade and a half ago. And that's a brief introduction to what we'll be talking about.
That's a great introduction, Cielito. And, I just want to wrap it up as well. Another view on the magazine itself is that while the mainstream media, which is pretty much co-opted, as we know, and also concentrates on war, rape, murder, pillage, and such things, this magazine actually goes behind the news. And that's why our program is called Views Behind the News.
And presents a message of hope.
Exactly.
Really
this is the whole point. Mm-hmm. The energies of Maitreya, the energies of love that he brings to the planet are flowing out daily through his direct link with the Godhead, and also the energies of the Masters are flowing daily into the planet, and they are bringing about transformations based on love and sharing and these great priorities that for the new time, for the stage that humanity has as a birthright. So these energies are changing things, and Share International finds those stories at the grassroots level that demonstrate this new way of existing. And believe me, there are a lot of good news stories out there behind the rape, murder, and pillage. So just before we go to break, I do want to remind people that we present this information for your consideration only. We are a group of volunteers that put this show together, and in line with a larger network that makes known the presence of Maitreya and the Masters in the world. And I'd like to remind you again of the chief source of this information, Benjamin Creme, as in creme de la creme. There's the music. See you back on the park bench on the other side.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Now there's a book about UFOs that stands out. British author Benjamin Creme has worked directly with the Space Brothers and writes about their spiritual mission in The Gathering of the Forces of Light, a truly inspiring book. Visit shareontheairradio.org for details. That's shareontheairradio.org. shareontheairradio.org.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business, and share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business.
Eros Evolution is where sexuality and spirituality meets. Join me, clinical sexologist Martha Tara Lee, on Eros Evolution on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back, folks, to our park bench. We're here with you today on Share on the Air Radio, talking about Maitreya's guidance. We are commenting the June Master's Message from Share International Magazine. Now, I would like us to, everyone, stop for half a second now, because I want to invite you to just be totally present to this short part of the article as I read it. The excerpt is about a minute long, but if you can just be totally present and listen to the power and the truth of these words, it is quite an experience. So I invite you to do that, and here is the first excerpt from Maitreya, the World Teacher. And I'm sorry, from Benjamin Creme's master, who works in direct conjunction with Maitreya and his aims. So, from the master. However much they may try, politicians and other leaders find it more and more difficult to control events and to keep their ship of state on an even keel. They find that, despite their expertise, it careers helplessly on its own, as if under the guidance of some unseen hand. That unseen hand, of course, is the logic of change. They fail to understand that the rules and methods by which they work belong to the past and have little relevance to the problems and needs of today. They meet and discuss these problems, but invariably retreat from actions that alone could solve them. Meanwhile, in varying degrees, the people suffer and wait for reason and insight to alleviate the distress. They know in their hearts that deliverance is possible and should be theirs, but lack, as yet, the structures and power to make it so. Pretty relevant, n'est-ce pas, Cielito?
N'est-ce pas? Diana, there is so much, that message is so potent. There is so much said in not a lot of words, really. And we can point to what the master saw 16 years ago to events happening today. And I think the perfect example of what master says, that what does he say here? The politicians and other leaders find it more and more difficult to control events and to keep their ship of state on an even keel. Well, what better example than the sheer unpredictability of the presidential election season here in the U.S. On one hand, you see a bombastic, racist reality show celebrity and self-described rich guy leading ahead of all the other Republican candidates and securing the most votes of the delegates. And then you have a 74-year-old social justice activist completely ignored by the media and nonetheless embraced by millennials quite fervently across the country. Despite the suppression by the media and absence of any coverage. And I think that definitely points to, at least in this country, and we'll talk about how we're seeing it across the world, because of the energies of the age of Aquarius, people are awakening to the need to have a voice, the disgust with the irrelevant policies and the irrelevant words of leaders. No matter what political stripe you're on, people are rebelling against what is seen as the establishment, whether it's the Democratic establishment or the Republican establishment. And that's really the best example. Another example, not in this country but in England, is the Brexit vote, and we talked about that on last week's show with our guest William James Allen. He gives a very astute assessment of how the Brexit vote reflects these tremendous upheavals in the political realm as it relates to the changes happening in the world. And so I encourage listeners to listen to last week's show. But I would start there, and there are so many other examples around the world.
Right. And the main point of that is that despite their so-called and self-proclaimed expertise, these leaders are dinosaurs. They are espousing the views of the past, which no longer hold together. All of our institutions now are falling apart. All of these old ideas are no longer supported, whereas the surging energies of the age of Aquarius coming in now are sparking that heart note among the millennials, among the people in general, some of whom, as you well know, are fleeing with little more than the shirts on their back to a new reality because their current reality, engendered by their current structures, is no longer livable.
And you're talking about, in this case, I'm assuming you're talking about the refugees.
Yes, I am.
Throughout Europe. That's such. I mean, there's so much has influenced how the Syrian conflict has exploded, beginning with global warming. It began with massive drought in the agricultural areas where people started pouring into the cities, and so you see this chain of events of crises. And crises upon, unfolding into another crisis, and everything's interconnected. And so we have a lot to handle here, and I'm glad you said that we're not alone in the beginning of the show, because we do need help. Let's see. Going back to the message here, I would say.
Well, I'd like to just interject a little bit, because we're going to get into this later. But to explain this idea of the Piscean energies and the Aquarian energies very, very briefly, everybody's heard the pop song. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Well, that's not just a Hollywood movie and a pop song. It's actually an astronomical reality, because the Earth comes into alignment with a different stellar constellation every 2150 years or so, 2,150 years or so. So up until not too long ago, we were running through the cycle of the Piscean age in the sign of Pisces, and now with what's known as the precession of the equinoxes, we are lining very, very rapidly with the quality, with the age of Aquarius, the constellation of Aquarius, and each constellation sends a very particular type of energy that influences our modes of living. So we will find, as we grow into the Aquarian age, that is very different to the age of Pisces, which was very much an age of, one of the chief qualities of Pisces is devotion. So we had the building of the great cathedrals, we had the founding of hospitals, we had institutions that were upheld by the work of teachers, bankers, whoever, that were at first very much devoted to the work they were doing in the world. So all of these great institutions have come about, but now, as we see, the cement, the glue of the energies of Pisces has basically fallen out of the picture, and so all of these institutions are falling apart, and pretty much very blatantly before our eyes. We even had the dissolution of the whole map of Europe since the beginning of the 1900s has completely changed. And at the same time, the influx of these energies of Aquarius, which we will talk about with much excitement as we come into the next section. You were going to say something, Cielito.
Well, I'd love for you to read the next section of the message, but I'll quickly give an example of a structure, a political structure that went into decline because of the withdrawal of Piscean energy, and that's in the middle of the 20th century, early to mid. The decline of imperialism colonialism throughout the world, where in the place of colonialism we saw the establishment of democracy, where there were not democratic forms of government. And certainly we're still in a process. We haven't seen true democracy in any country, but certainly we've seen the establishment of the ability to vote in countries where they did not have many people did not have the ability to vote. So that's an example.
Right, and also all of the fall of the many dictatorships over the last 50 years. An incredible number of dictatorships have turned to democracy. You know, we're not going to have time for me to read the next wonderful quote, but I have a shorter one that I'd like to say as we go to break here, because it pretty much sums up what we've been talking about. And that, again, from the article Maitreya's Guidance that you can see on our Facebook page, here's the quote. A new and potent world opinion will demonstrate its power and render obsolete the maneuvers and stratagem of the men of power today.
Oh, that's so true. That's again the idea of an elite class dictating how we should move into the future is completely. People are just like, we're done with that. We want a voice in this process. We don't want elite bankers and elite politicians who've never had a connection with ordinary working people, the 99%. We don't want them dictating our lives. And we're seeing upheaval after upheaval against those establishment structures. We'll talk more. Thank you for sharing that, Diana.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll come back after the break. Stay with us on this park bench.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Want to help humanity and the planet? Transmission meditation is a simple but powerful way for you and 2 or more friends to do just that and dramatically accelerate your own spiritual growth. You can read the book on transmission meditation, free online. Visit shareontheairradio.org for details. That's shareontheairradio.org. shareontheairradio.org.
Join Vibe Nation radio host, international psychic medium Carrie Turcotte, as she guides her listeners to rediscover themselves by accessing the keys of knowledge that already exist within. Each week's show is divinely orchestrated to intertwine with the universal energies, allowing the listeners to go deeper within. At the end of each show, Carrie will tap into the energies of the listeners and give a message from Spirit about the upcoming week. If you really want to get to know who you truly are, join Carrie each Monday at 3 p.m. on Vibe Nation Radio.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on The Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
And we're back. Share on the Air Radio. I am with my co-host, Diana Gold Holland. We're not often together on the show, so this is a special treat. Our park bench chat in the middle of the summertime. I'd like to let our listeners know that there is a book. If you're enjoying the words of the Master as we're reading them here, we're going to read a little bit more from the message, The Guidance of Maitreya. The link is posted on our Facebook page. If you're enjoying that, there is actually a collection of all of the Master's messages from 1982, the first issue of Share International magazine in January 1982, all the way to 2003, and that amounts to over 200 messages from the Masters. And if you love language, you love beautiful expression, and you want to read something meaningful, positive, and hard-hitting and enlightening, you'll want to read A Master Speaks. And that's available on Amazon in hardback and in Kindle. Again, that's A Master Speaks. The author is credited as, of course, Benjamin Creme, Creme, but the articles are actually written by one of the Masters of Wisdom. Look that up on Amazon. Okay. So
as we get going here, I'd like to just read another quote from this message, because it pretty much sums up what we were talking about before the break, about the dissatisfaction of most people these days with the reigning power structure. So let me go right into that, and then we'll pick up again. So the Master says, "Not forever will the people wait. Already the signs of dissent and impatience are appearing across the world, urging the leaders to engage with their needs and afflictions. The leaders, men without vision, look to promises and palliatives to halt the mounting demands for fairness and justice. They do so in vain. The peoples of the world have caught the vision of freedom, of justice and peace, and will not let it go. They, rather than their leaders, will outline the future and shape it to their needs. Thus will it be. This new force in the world, the voice of the people, is rapidly gaining strength and cohesion and will play a major role in world affairs from now on."
It's such a positive passage. I love the phrase, men without vision. I was thinking about that. The leaders, men without vision, look to promises and palliatives. And it occurred to me, Diana, that when our leaders are beholden to commercial forces or beholden to money or profit before people, then it is not possible to have a vision that can galvanize large numbers of ordinary working people.
Or even solve problems. And, I'd like to pick up on that. With your experience, Cielito, of the voice of the people, you have been engaged very actively in the movement in Seattle for the $15 an hour. Why don't you tell us a bit about your personal experience of the voice of the people?
Well, when we talk about people power, probably the first thing that comes to mind is marching around with signs, and it's way more than that, Diana, I have to say. Like, $15 an hour minimum wage was a victory that the people won here in Seattle. It was part of the platform of a socialist candidate for city council. Her name is Shama Sawant, and she won on the basis of that platform. In less than 6 months, her office and the people supporting the movement secured that victory, the first victory for $15 an hour in a major city in the United States. And now we're San Francisco was next. We're now seeing it in Los Angeles, in Washington, D.C., Minneapolis. They've gathered 20,000 signatures to get a vote on that on the ballot. And it's
so how did this actually occur? Because obviously Salawat did not have a lot of money, I presume, to run a campaign like these horrendous and obscene sums that are being spent on the election, this U.S. election this year. So what was the voice of the people that allowed this to happen, or that projected this to happen?
Well, it does require work. I mean, it's amazing because people said $15 an hour. That's ridiculous. That's too much money. But we changed the conversation. Now the expectation of the people is that is a reasonable demand across the country. So when the Democratic Party is saying, oh, we can't do a federal $15 an hour minimum wage, that can't be part of our platform, they sound so woefully out of step. I have to say that. But Kshama Sawant, she won because ordinary people, I mean, there's a lot of strategy and tactics, but you can have a lot of power without a lot of money when there's a message that resonates with the people. And so her work galvanized a lot of young people, a lot of volunteers. I was involved in organizing people in my community, and it's no small thing to do that. It's a lot of communicating with the public and saying, no, it's better for the economy when the minimum wage is increased. That doesn't mean prices are going to go up. It means the economy gets better, and we've seen that in the Seattle area. People thought restaurants would be closing left and right, and that is not true. The economy is doing significantly well here. Of course, there's a lot of issues along with that because there are many. Seattle's an expensive town. So
right, but I see this as actually redressing the balance and bringing some sanity into the economy, because what happens when you give people the money, people spend money, and then money takes on its rightful position, which is to be shared, to be always in motion.
Yeah.
All of the hoarders, the 1% hoarders, what are they doing with their money? Look at all the storehouses, the mountains of food rotting in granaries and butter silos and whatnot.
Butter silos. Well,
it's true. There are butter silos while people starve.
It's interesting you mention that, because there is a billionaire here in Seattle who says the exact same thing. He says rich people don't spend on lots of things the way working people do, and we have to the economy is based on working people spending money, not on the wealthy people. And yet we see marketed in the grocery stores, and at least in Seattle, buildings are being built for wealthy people. Items are being produced for wealthy people. And that doesn't sustain an economy, because, there's more working, average, ordinary people than wealthy people. What I wanted to also, I just love the line, outline the future and shape it to their needs. The people, rather than the leaders, we will be shaping our needs. Here in Seattle, it's when we won $15 an hour as a minimum wage, that emboldened so many people, and that generated trust in City Council member Kshama Sawant. She actually only takes of her six-figure salary, which is, I think, $116,000 for a city council member. She takes for herself only $40,000, the average working person's salary, and that generates a sense of trust and her ability to represent the people's interests and not the corporate interests. I have people coming up to me saying, I'll sign that petition because I trust Kshama Sawant. And I think that's an important component of bringing about world transformation, is establishing trust in that way.
Absolutely. And of course, there's no better way to establish trust than to share.
Yes, yes.
In the act of sharing, trust is built. I do want to just get back to one small point, though, about the people, and that is the link with Maitreya and the people's voice. And this also the Master talks about when he says, Maitreya awaits his opportunity to augment the power and influence of the people's voice and to steer its course.
Yeah. Augment. I like that word. You know, in Maitreya's messages, in the Master's messages, we are not hearing some kind of a dictating of what should be done, what ought to be done. They're not coming from on high and criticizing us. It's an expression of deep compassion that a wise teacher would augment what is already happening in the world that's emboldening people to recognize their divinity. So I love that phrase.
But he does provide some direction if we listen carefully, listening with the heart. For example, he says, single and simple must be the demands of the people. Many and varied are their problems, but universal are their needs. Peace through justice and freedom are the needs of all men. Peace through justice and freedom are the needs of all men.
That's just the unifying power of those simple words is extraordinary. And that puts us all on the same plane, that evokes a sense of, hey, you want the same thing I do. It doesn't matter where you're from or what your beliefs are. Freedom and justice and ultimately peace. That's what we want. That's an extraordinary statement, I think.
It is, and it's the way, and this we know, the brilliance of Maitreya as world teacher, standing at the head of the human race as he does, is that as a teacher, he distills these intractable problems down into the single element of peace. To give us our dignity. And nobody else is saying that.
No one else. Not with such simplicity. And I think that's reason for us to feel emboldened to make the changes in the world that need to be made.
And we're going to talk about how we do that back on our park bench.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Now there's a book about UFOs that stands out. British author Benjamin Creme has worked directly with the Space Brothers and writes about their spiritual mission in The Gathering of the Forces of Light, a truly inspiring book. Visit shareontheairradio.org for details. That's shareontheairradio.org. shareontheairradio.org.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millises, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
Simone Millises would like you to know that business can be fun, which is why she wrote the book, Joy of Business. What if you could have the joy of business rather than the stress and struggle? Most of the time, the only thing stopping you from a thriving business is you. In the Joy of Business book, Simone gives you access consciousness tools and pragmatic ways to get out of your own way and to create the business, life, and living you know is possible and beyond what this reality says is achievable. Business is joy. It's creation. It's generative. It can be the adventure of living. You can purchase your copy of the book through Amazon or Joy of Business website, www.accessjoyofbusiness.com.
Hi, this is Julie Geigel.
And I'm Alicia Isaacs-Howes.
And I'm Catherine Glass.
And we're the Psychic Angel Channelers. You can find us every week here on OMTimes Radio at Angel Talk Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time.
The angels have heard your call and are here to help.
Are you ready to receive?
Remember your magnificence with Angel Talk Tuesday.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio.
Hello, and welcome back to our sunny park bench here on Share on the Air Radio. You're with your hosts, Diana Gold Holland and Cielito Pascual, and we are talking about the Master's Message, Maitreya's Guidance, which you can find on our Facebook page. We also invite you to take a look at Share International Magazine itself. That's Share, SHARE-international.org. And there you will find any of the current issues, the past issues, the archive. There is quite a lot of information there. And at the beginning of any of the issues, you can find the whole background story of the presence and emergence of Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom into the world. And that is an extraordinary, definitely life-changing information if you're not in contact with it yet.
Can I add, Diana?
Sure.
That there are videos, we rarely mention this, there are video excerpts of Mr. Benjamin Creme's lectures on at share-international.org. Just click on video and audio, and that's a great source of information, and it's just wonderful to listen to Mr. Creme. He has a great delivery, presents very thought-provoking information. So I encourage our listeners to go to those links.
That's right. And Mr. Creme is himself an absolutely extraordinary person. He's now in his early 90s, and he has been talking about the emergence of Maitreya for, well on seven, almost 50 years now. And he has a very compelling message, so it's a joy to listen to him. So good call there, Cielito, to talk about the videos. I want to get back to the idea of, peace through justice and freedom are the needs of all men. Now, that's one thing to think about. But Maitreya also says that, here's another quote from the Master, sharing, Maitreya will advise, is the key to the creation of trust, without which naught is possible. No other way, he will solemnly remind the nations, will bring them the peace for which in their hearts they yearn. So we're talking about this. This is getting a little more complicated, but it's also peeling away the layers of the onion. The creation of trust, without which naught is possible. How can we do that? How do we create trust in the world today?
I think that will be a very big leap for humanity to make, because we are so accustomed to being at battle with someone or something or some force. And as I mentioned earlier, when I referred to Seattle City Council member Shama Sawant taking only $40,000 of her six-figure pay and donating the rest. That is sharing. That is it's not just sharing. It's making a sacrifice. And I think anyone who is committed day in and day out to creating a better world must sacrifice something in order to be truly effective. And so when I meet someone who's willing to sacrifice the typical average American comforts in order to make a better world, I know that their priorities are based on an inner orientation, not an external material orientation, and I respect that. I trust that. Right. It's not an easy thing, but we have to start somewhere.
Of course, Maitreya says that sharing is divine. Sharing is seeing, the divine in your brother and your sister. And I'm very enheartened at a lot of the mass movement stuff that is going on now, where perfect strangers are reaching out to one another. I got some pictures from Laurie McGowan in Nova Scotia that I interviewed a while back. His whole town was waiting for a family of refugees to be delivered to them, as it were. And it's great, the pictures he sent and how the whole town is taking care of them, how they're integrating. This is truly brotherhood in action. It's such a solution. It is just perfect. And, we talk about sacrifice, but at least, materially and Laurie's village is a good example of this. Do we really need 3 television sets and 2 cars and, all of this kind of thing? People are worried about sacrifice, but when it takes, in many ways, so little that means so much to, for example, these refugees who arrive with absolutely nothing, It's sharing because it's the right thing to do, and we're seeing it in mass movements now. We're seeing people that turn out, that when all these massacres are happening, and the tributes of flowers and messages and whatnot that go out to perfect strangers and their families. The concern for once that we see in newscasters when they reach out to the families of people who've been touched by tragedy. That's real.
I think yes, it's very real. There's tragedies happening every day. This week was a very disheartening week here in the U.S. Because, again, police murder innocent people. These are very complex problems. And like you said, as you quoted from the master, there's so many problems, and yet our needs are very universal. We want freedom, we want justice, we want peace, we want to be able to take care of our families and not worry that if our son leaves the house, he won't come back because he was shot in the street. What gives me encouragement is that these energies of Aquarius are nourishing and potentizing the work of people committed to transforming the planet. We're not just flailing along, trying to make things happen. We are being supported by Maitreya and the masters and extraordinarily potent energies from the age of Aquarius, the energies of synthesis. We've talked about this on previous shows. And one thing that's really significant is that the young people in the world today and the souls coming into incarnation today are equipped to handle the problems that we're confronted with. They are literally ready and able to take these on. I just read a survey, an article about a survey done by UCLA that says the percentage of incoming students in the colleges and universities who are willing and expect to participate in protest is higher than at any time, including the 1960s. And I think that is a demonstration of what the esoteric perspective has always said, that with every age, souls come into incarnation prepared and equipped to solve the problems of the time. And I see that in the young people here in Seattle who are completely selfless. It's extraordinary how much time they dedicate with local issues and fighting for working people here.
Well, working people and also very much for the environment.
Absolutely.
The young people. And, it's one thing, as you were saying that, I just had a flash that, in the 60s, a lot of those protests were against things. And what we're seeing today is people protesting or rallying for causes rather than against. Mm-hmm. We're seeing, a lot of people rallying for climate change, rallying for better working conditions, rallying for a living wage. So that to me is different. This is an assembly of people. It's a coming together, which is what the age of Aquarius, of course, is all about. It's the age of brotherhood and synthesis. And so we're seeing that happening now.
I think I see a lot of people protesting against things too.
Well, yeah, I suppose, but I see. It just flashed on me that there's a lot of protesting for. I think we see a lot of very strong emotions when people have their dignity suppressed or even denied by outside forces. That suppression is going to lead to an explosion. And we're seeing that already. We're seeing violent protests. We're seeing angry people. And I'm not afraid of that energy. I think it's important to call for nonviolence, to call for a sense of balance in fighting for justice. But people are feeling strong emotions, and we can expect to see a lot of things happening in the world. But I think what will keep us on even keel is recognizing that we are all divine, that we are all connected, that we truly are all one. Okay, and in wrapping up, I would advise our readers, our park bench joinees, that if this message has the ring of truth for you, one very simple thing you can do is actually share it with your friends and loved ones. Find out more, and as I said, if you share this message, you will contribute to the creation of a climate of hope into which Maitreya can step forward along with the masters.
Yes, share the links to this show. Share this show. Thank you, Diana. This was a great conversation.
Okay, bye for now. See you on